Welcome to our special 4-part series on stress management. I'm your host, Jeff van der Westhuizen, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Toorn, a distinguished occupational therapist. Together, we'll delve into this crucial topic and explore effective strategies to help you manage stress better. Welcome to episode number 4, Leanne.
Hi, thank you, Jeff.
Good to have you here in the studio today. And episode 3, we ended by just touching on mindfulness and the importance of relaxation, mindfulness, the ability just to be present, living in the moment. And then I ended, and you also elaborate on knowing yourself, the importance of being in touch with yourself, know what your body needs are communicating to you.
Yeah.
So with that, let's carry on where we stopped.
Right. I think when we spoke the last time, we were speaking about strategies and
Yes.
how can we manage our stress. And so when looking at yourself, it's important that you, as much as you have an understanding of yourself, you need to love and accept yourself.
Yes.
Because when you do, you are able to take care of yourself and your needs. And so often we find that we have things from the past that we need to deal with sometimes that might still stress us. Sometimes there's trauma that we've been through, and we need to learn to forgive, accept, move on, and in that process, make sure that we as individuals understand that we are worthy, we are enough, and to love ourselves unconditionally. Sometimes when we have expectations of ourselves which is beyond our capabilities,
Yes.
it can also lead to stress. And so self-love is really making sure that whatever you need, you provide for.
Yes.
Not to be always be dependent on other people to love me, to praise me, to acknowledge me. When you love yourself, you will do the things that will nurture you, that will nourish your soul.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think with that, I want to bring in our spirituality as well, because whatever we believe in, that's the thing that rules our thoughts, it rules our behavior. And so if you are a religious person, if you are more culturally orientated, if that's the thing that gives meaning to you, start practicing that. Usually when if you are more culturally orientated, and if you follow a calling or you participate in traditional rituals and ceremonies, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel that you have a space of belonging, and you usually are not stressed when you've been to something like that, or when you go on these spiritual retreats, or when you just take some time out to spend with your God, where you go to maybe a church or a temple, where you mix with people with the same values, with the same belief system, with the same religious views. It really helps you, whatever your viewpoint is in terms of spirituality, practice that.
Yes.
It will put you in a better mind frame. I know for myself, if I pray, once I've prayed, I leave it and I don't bother with it again, because I believe that my God is going to sort it out for me.
Yes.
I'm not saying that I am being like an ostrich and I try and make as if it doesn't exist, but I'm still doing my things on the side in terms of managing myself and my life better.
Yeah.
But there's also a sense of assurance that I have that I'm not going to have to struggle with this thing alone.
Oh yeah.
And in that, I think, struggling alone, a lot of us go and sit in the corner. And we pity ourselves, and we just try and figure things out for ourselves. No man is an island. We don't have to struggle on our own. And so it's important that we find people in our life who we can confide in. Sometimes it's your spiritual leaders. It's an elder in your family. Sometimes it's a supervisor at work. Even the EAP at your work, the Employee Assistance Program. It's important that you are able to speak to someone that you trust when there is something that you feel you can't manage. Sometimes I might not have the answer, but Jeff might have the answer. Or sometimes it's the first time I'm going through this stressful experience. But Jeff might have been through this experience before and has got
Yes.
some things that he can teach me. And sometimes we don't always have those people. And then it's important to note that when we're struggling to manage our stress, when our bodies are starting to speak, when we feel these palpitations, when we can't sleep at night, when I have headaches consistently, when I just feel this constant overwhelm and I can't cope and manage, it's okay to go and get help from a professional.
Yes.
You can go to a medical doctor, you can go to a social worker, you can go to a psychologist, you can go to the clinic at your location, you can go to your clinic sometimes at the work itself, and just say to someone, you know what, I am struggling. Sometimes you can get medication, you can get talk therapy, and people can help you with getting coping skills
Yeah.
to help you through the stressful period in your life. Yeah, I think that's kind of some of the things. I think one other thing, I was talking about confidence and so on.
Yes.
Where do you find those people? They could be in your family.
People that you trust, people that you can rely on.
Yeah. But also people that has some knowledge. I can't speak to a friend who's also just as stressed as me. We're both struggling with our finances. I mean, like, we're really not going to be of any help to each other. But maybe go to someone who has a little bit more experience, someone who has a little bit more knowledge, or someone that has been through something and has come out on the other side of that stressful
Yeah.
situation.
Someone who's prepared to listen to you, eh?
Yeah,
We need that more.
absolutely.
People that are wise, people that can listen to us, who are there for us, and whom we can confide in. Yeah.
Sometimes that's your family and sometimes it's not.
Yes.
I think for a lot of people, they feel that their families cause them stress. And so sometimes you're going to have to find that person maybe outside of the family network, out of the family circle.
Yes.
But I think to speak about, now I'm talking about family, I'm going to jump in there if you don't
Yes,
mind.
of course.
But I think when thinking about family, sometimes we have a lot of stress from our families, eh? I don't know if you know about this thing called black tax. The expectation that families have that those who have a job must help those who don't have a job or who's in a worse position.
Yeah.
Those who are the older ones must go and provide for the younger ones. You must send money home. Sometimes when you don't work in the same area where your family is, you have to live in where you're living, but you also need to have enough to send home. Sometimes to send home to a wife and children as well, and that can be quite demanding. If especially if we don't have enough. And so I think when we look at this, it's important that as an individual you need to know what you can and what you cannot,
Yeah.
what you are willing to and what you are not willing to. And that can cause some strain in the relationships.
Yes.
When someone phones and says, we don't have electricity, you need to send money, please. For electricity, it can take a strain on you because you might not have. But now you are stressing about what's happening at home. And it's important that we acknowledge that those expectations are going to be there. We can't make people not have those expectations of us. But it is about how do we manage those expectations? What do we do? And so when we start speaking about what can I, what can't I, you need to know what your boundaries are. You need to know what it is that you can allow and that you can't allow. You need to know what it is that is manageable for you and what is not. And then finding a way of communicating that to your family. Sometimes saying no to people in itself can be stressful. How do I say no to someone?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you've got to practice it a little bit in order to get to that point of being able to say, no, I can't, or I can only help you next month, or I can only help you payday. Because sometimes if I don't set that boundary for people, I get into trouble. And then that makes me stress again. And so sometimes we can prevent certain things in our life by setting boundaries. We can prevent feeling overstretched and overwhelmed with everything. And when there are requests that come our way, which are the things that I can and I cannot? We always want to accommodate family because of that guilt feeling that we get if we don't. But also think about what are the consequences for yourself as a person.
Yes.
And remember what I said, self-love.
Yeah.
I am important. I'm not saying that other people aren't, but I need to look after myself, my body, my mind, my thoughts.
Yeah, self-care and self-love has got a lot to do with boundary setting, knowing what I'm capable of doing and not capable, and as you said earlier, what I have control over and what I don't have control over. The things that I don't have control over, what's the point of stressing about that? And that's a tough one. When I realize I can't control that, and if I'm going to stress and worry about it, it's not going to change the situation. It is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the next point that you would like to work on?
I think coming from the boundaries one, I think
Yes.
it's important that we think about how do we communicate.
Yes.
You know, when we allow certain things that we shouldn't,
Yeah.
and now suddenly we realize, but I shouldn't be doing that. How do I now go and state that? And so we call that assertive communication. It's when you are able to say what you think, feel, want, need, won't allow, cannot allow, without being offensive, angry, aggressive, rude, dismissive of the other person.
But very honest
But very honest.
and very straight,
very straight.
but in a loving way.
In a loving way.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, when someone asks me, like, we don't have electricity at home, can you please send me a 200 rand for electricity, please? When I say, no, you must look after yourself, I don't have money for you, that's not always a nice way of saying it. But rather the assertive way of saying it is maybe saying, you know what, I can hear that you're in a predicament and that you're struggling right now, but unfortunately I don't have money to give you. The money that I have now is only for me to survive until the next payday. You acknowledge the other person and you say to them that you understand the situation, but you also set your boundary very clear. So often when we don't do that and we say, no, then there's an argument that ensues perhaps, etc. And that causes stress. Stress that we didn't ask for. If, however, I might say yes when I don't have money and I give my last, I'm going to then stress about how do I get to the next payday? How do I survive until then? And so I think it's important that we learn to communicate in a way that will still maintain our relationships and that people still understand that we still love them, we still care for them, but unfortunately we are unable to do this. That just minimizes the amount of stress that you will experience in the long run.
So what I hear, stress management has got a lot to do with the way we communicate.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. What would you say is the next very important aspect regarding stress management?
I think another thing that I want to talk about coming from communication. So if we don't speak about things appropriately or in the right way, in the right tone, it can lead to conflict. And so often there's a lot of conflict in our families, in our relationships. Family dramas is everywhere. There's even conflict in our friendships. There's conflict perhaps in our workplace with our supervisor or with colleagues, etc. And unresolved conflict can really make one stress.
Yeah.
You can have sleepless nights about it. Sometimes you play it over and over in your head. It is constantly with you, and there's a preoccupation sometimes with that difficult situation, that conflict, whether it is a a marital conflict situation, it's with your children, it's with your boss. It bothers one, and we worry, we stress about it,
Yeah.
because we want to have good relationships with people. We don't want to be in conflict, and so if you can learn to manage conflict better,
Yes.
it definitely will help to reduce our experience of stress. Now, how do we manage conflict? I think the first thing is get calm. Ne? Get calm, stay calm.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. Go and listen to some music.
Yeah.
Just if you need to in that moment, just say it. To just get you to calm down. Because if
Yes.
we are not calm, we cannot control our tone of voice, the volume of our voice, our facial expressions. We cannot always think clearly and rationally in that moment. We are more reactive rather than responsive. And there's a lot more of blame that will come into that. And so when we manage conflict, it's about trying to not blame the other person. It's about trying to find a resolution. And that resolution sometimes takes some compromise. It takes some collaboration. It's important that we find ways of communicating our grievances, our dissatisfaction with certain situations in an honest, calm, but also rational and logical way. Rather than saying, yeah, but you didn't, da, 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 da. Rather than saying, you know what, I feel that when you did this, it led to this, that, and the other. And so when we are calm, we can think about our words. And I always say, think before you speak. This little tongue of ours can cause a whole lot of damage. And if that conflict situation continues, the stress that comes with it will continue as well. And so if we can, again I say, don't be an ostrich. Deal with the issue. Deal with the conflict. If you can deal with it ASAP, it minimizes the longer term stress that you experience. You know, when you're in conflict situation, the blood pressure rises, the heart rate increases. You don't want to keep that to continue. You don't want that to continue. From dealing with that, when you manage conflict, you also need to know how to deal with problems.
Yes.
You need to know how to solve your problems. So often we think that ignoring it will make it go away. Our stress will remain as long as the problem is there. And so if we can find a way of solving that problem, it will also take our stress away. And so problem solving is really a way of looking at different alternatives or different things that we can brainstorm around different ideas of solving the same problem. You know, when I have a financial problem, I might go to the mashonisa, the loan shark. Ne? When you have a financial problem, you're going to try and see, you know, can't I sell this equipment that's standing in my garage? When someone else has a financial problem, they are going to go and take medication to get them to sleep so that they can forget about their problem. When someone else has a problem, they go and run 10 kilometers. When someone else has a problem, they go and drink. Ne? And that's very similar to our stress situation as well. So that if you can know that your way of solving the problem is not always the only way. And so when we are so stressed, sometimes we are unable to think about these alternatives. You know, my mind just, it's one track. I need to get out of the stressful situation. I need to get out of this issue. I want this gone. And so the quick way sometimes is not always the best way. So when I go to the loan shark, he's going to ask me 30 to 40% interest.
Yeah.
Ne? So at the end of the month, I'm going to be stressed again because that amount that I was struggling with has now nearly doubled.
Yes.
And so the stress just continues. So I've tried to, for the moment, manage the stress by quickly getting the money and getting access to money. But in the long run, the stress is going to just accumulate. All right. So I think, in terms of problem solving, is really looking at what is the problem, define where the problem starts, and then go in and fix it. And I think that's the thing that I spoke about in the previous sessions around internal and external stresses.
Yes.
Some of our problems are internally created. So we created that problem. And we need to make sure that we deal with that problem. Obviously, the things that are externally created, those stresses, we can do certain things within ourselves to try and manage it. So maybe if there's a problem outside, like there's overtime or something like that that's being requested at work, it's a problem that was created outside and it's making me stressed because I'm supposed to do this and I must go and fetch the child and I must still do this and now I must work overtime. But what I can do is I can quickly make a phone call. I can organize someone to pick up the child. I can phone someone to ask them to please go and put on the lights or whatever it needs to be. There are certain things that I can do to manage those externally imposed stresses.
Like delegating, as you say.
You
yeah.
can delegate to
Yeah.
other people. You can ask for help. Sometimes we don't want to ask for help. When we ask for help, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of knowing yourself and knowing your capabilities and knowing what your limits are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We all have strengths in different areas. I think the other thing that's also important is planning.
Yes.
When we don't plan, we cause a lot of stress for ourselves. So in our country, there's something like load shedding. We are grateful that we don't have it right now. But if you think of that, so often people are stressed because of load shedding. But 90% of the time, you knew it was going to be load shedding that time and that time.
Yeah.
So why did I not pack my bag last night? Why did I not iron my clothes last night? Why did I not charge the rechargeable lights? Why did I not buy gas? You understand what I'm saying? And so when we plan, we can even minimize the amount of stress that we have. If I think of the example I think I made the last time around traffic, I must just get up a little earlier so that I'm not stressed when there's bad traffic. Ne? If I think of planning, sometimes we need to plan our day and leave time for the unexpected.
Yes.
Because sometimes we are so thrown by that unexpected things that happen that we are totally rattled and we don't know what to do, and then we go into freeze mode where we're not able to think properly, we're not able to make rational decisions, etc.
Yes.
With that comes time management. Now that's something that I struggle with, Jeff. I'm late for everything. Time management is something that nobody else can manage but you. And I have to manage my time. And even in managing my time, it's also about setting boundaries and being assertive about my time.
Oh, yes.
And deciding what is it that I'm doing with my time? What is the best use of my time? Because sometimes I allow people to impose on my time, and then that makes me stress because then I don't have enough time to do what I need to do. So often at work, for example, we have that situation that you've planned what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and then a supervisor comes and says something, or a colleague comes and they ask for help. It's important that I protect my time, because if I don't, I'm going to be stressed later. Rather say, you know what, I'm just going to finish what I need to finish. I'll be finished by that time, and then I will come and help you. Yeah.
We've heard so many things in these 2 episodes about managing stress, and what I really appreciate what you've been sharing is that the message of we can take control of it is there. It's a reality. Stress is not going to be wiped away. swept away. It's there to stay, but it's there to manage as well. In a previous episode, you spoke about having confidant in people. I was also thinking that we can make stress our friend, our ally. If I had no stress this morning, I would have been sitting here lackadaisy, don't care. So a little bit of stress is working for me. It's motivating, inspiring me to help me. It's propelling me towards having my goals being achieved. And I'm really excited about all of these wonderful points that you've mentioned so far in these two episodes of managing my life and exercising, healthy eating, sleeping, and the last things that you mentioned about problem solving, time management, and budgeting. And so now it's up to our listeners and our viewers to identify the internal and the external stressors in their lives, and to say, maybe they must make a list. What do you think if they make a list?
Absolutely. I usually say to people, when you are in a state of no stress, it's the best time to do it. But even if you are stressed, go and make a list of your stresses, and go and make a list of what is causing you to stress, because we want to deal with the root cause as well.
Yes.
We don't want to just deal with, now that we have the stress, what do we do to fix it? And once you have that, go and look at who's involved. When does this happen? What happens to me when I'm like that? And then go and look at this list of things that we've given you to go and see, can I do this? If I just go and find someone to speak to, will this help? If I start budgeting, if I start setting boundaries, if I start setting goals and realistic goals for myself, will this help with that? And so when you start practicing, it's when you see what works for you. For each person, these things that I've mentioned now might be used differently. Or for some people, they might not use all of it. So, for example, I know I need to sleep, and I need to sleep well in order for me to be able to deal with every day's stress. Otherwise, I start feeling unsettled. And so for someone else, they only need like 4 to 5 hours of sleep, and then they're good to go. So for each person, you need to decide what is it that you need to use. Unfortunately, I can't say to you, do this, do that, do that. But a combination of some of these strategies will definitely work. And I want to say you need to combine the strategies from session 3 and the strategies from session 4 if you want to deal with your stress in a more holistic and in the long term having results. Stay positive. Stress is part of our life. It's not going to go anywhere, but we can overcome it. Stress is that thing that keeps us going, that motivates us. When you feel overwhelmed, ask for help. Reach out to someone.